This has been a difficult week for some of the saints. Lehman Copley was who we talked about last week. He had a huge farm and he offered to let the saints come and move in on his farm. These saints left behind prosperous farms back in New York, and they traveled a ton and they get to Ohio, where they're supposed to live on Lehman Copley's farm. And they made this huge sacrifice in leaving these prosperous farms behind as they were trying to follow the prophet and follow the Lord. And they get there and Lehman Copley changes his mind and kicks them all off of his land. Joseph takes the time to inquire of the Lord regarding this situation. So this is Doctrine and Covenants. It's section 54. It is verse 8. And this is the Lord, what he says to the saints when they just found out that they went to Ohio like they were supposed to and they got kicked off of where they were supposed to live. It says, "And thus you shall take your journey into the regions westward unto the land of Missouri, unto the borders of the Lamanites." So the Lord is literally like, okay, you made it to Ohio, now you're going to go on to Missouri. So the saints just traveled 250 miles to Ohio, and there's nothing there for them. And now they're going to try to travel 800 miles to Missouri. Those were estimates because I looked up the distances on Google Maps, so it's not going to be exact. But those are approximations so you can understand what these saints were sacrificing. They come to Ohio like they're told, and the Lord's like, just kidding, you're going to Missouri. There are a lot of lessons that we can learn from how this played out. I'm sure that the saints were asking, okay, well, doesn't the prophet speak for the Lord? Like, why didn't he see this coming? Why didn't they just tell us to go to Missouri first? If this is what the Lord wants us to do, why isn't he facilitating it for us so that we can live in Ohio? Did the Lord make a mistake? Did Joseph make a mistake? Is Joseph really a prophet? There are good answers to all of those questions. Very good answers to all those questions. And I could spend an entire podcast episode, YouTube channel episode, just on the answers to those questions. But I actually want to take it in a different direction. We're going to operate on the assumption that the Lord knew this is exactly what was happening, because he did. He knew that Lehman Copley would say, no, I am kicking you off my land. And we're going to operate off the assumption that he was guiding Joseph this whole time, that Joseph had been speaking for the Lord when Joseph was like, you need to leave your farms in New York and you need to come to Ohio. We're going to assume that the Lord knew all of this. He knew the hiccups that they would run into and that he would reroute them. He knew all this. Why? What gives? Why did he choose to do it in this manner? Why didn't he circumvent the whole issue and just tell the saints to go on to Missouri? There were probably a lot of good reasons. Maybe Ohio was a lot easier to swallow than going all the way to Missouri, and it helped get some of the reluctant saints out the door and already moving. Perhaps the Lord needed to give Lehman an opportunity to choose so that his judgments could be just. The most important reason that the Lord did it this way, the most important reason is because he loves his saints. It all boils down to that. He loves his saints. And so I want to talk about why the Lord dealt with his saints after this manner and how it is proof of the Lord's love for them and not a disregard for their welfare or a penchant for unfairness. The Lord loves his saints, and he is taking this as an opportunity. It would be really easy to take the lessons from this story and to talk about trials in general, but I want to talk about a specific type of trial, namely when you've been betrayed, and even after you've been betrayed, you feel like you're still getting the short end of the stick.